we are here. We are live, and this is podcast episode 3, titled more like Pohxcast. Reasons being, we got Pohx today as our special guest. It's good to have him in that pink shirt of his. Before we get into this, I'm just going to explain a little bit of, about myself, and as everyone else will. My name is Zeno. My real name is Ian, and I like long walks on the beach and playing Path of Exile. I prefer 24-hour streams. That's what I like to do. I like to review people's builds, and then I host this podcast. So if you're interested in checking me out, go ahead. You're already here. So if you want to talk a little bit about yourself here, Colby.
Hey, what's up, guys? I like to do a lot of build theory crafting. It's one of my favorite things to do. That's why I like this game, as well as just helping people out with the game as they come on my stream and having a good time. Hardcore.
Hey, it's Hedgie. I'm glad to be back and glad to be doing this podcast with Pohx. And currently level 90, dominating below Righteous Fire on Invasion, and sweeping my way with my janitor on Ambush, trying to get 90 and get those achievements.
What's up, guys? It's Pohx, and I'm the guest here on the podcast. Extremely happy to be here. And for those of you who don't know me, I play a level 90 melee in Invasion League. Try to put my characters to the test and see how they do against the bosses. So it's glad to see all of you here.
And if you're interested in anybody's stream, the link is below. We got ColbycheeZe, HegemonyTV, Pohx, and then myself. You're already here. Before we get this thing officially kicked off, I want to give a big shout out to those GGG support team that's watching right now. Thank you guys for allowing us to do this. We really appreciate it. Secondly, I'd like to thank all you viewers for coming by and continuing checking out this podcast. We're very humble. We appreciate it. We really do. And then lastly, of course, Twitch. You guys are awesome for even letting this exist nowadays. So let's get this thing kicked off. Hedgie, you're going to provide us a segment. We're all going to talk about it. What do you got for us today?
Well, before that, I wanted to talk to the viewers. The channel is now on slow. Please feel free to ask questions. You can direct it to all of us by hitting like @all or direct it to a specific caster, and we will keep an eye on those questions, and we'll talk about those questions or issues that you have with PoE and at the end of our segments. But yeah, today I wanted to talk about invasion and ambush, mainly map progression and the end game that consists of getting that XP and that grind. And I want to say that I feel like the 4-month time and the span is, it's on point with the Invasion League. There are lots of deaths, but there are a lot of successes. Like if we take a look, we see Unhost, he's doing great in ambush, in invasion. And the league is not broken. I don't believe it to be. It's very difficult. It's causing people to play differently and, touch on different kinds of builds to make it work. They're not used to playing, the same cookie cutter builds that they were, in previous leagues. However, with ambush and their current system, their reward system is actually, plentiful. It's more than enough, and it's almost been a detriment when it comes to the end game ladder. It's only been 39 days, and we already have our first level 99. That is insane.
Yeah.
The main culprit of that problem is the cartographer's box, and also the currency boxes help as well. I feel like in that league where the reward is so big, the challenge should be definitely harder, and it's become to the point where you have so many maps, and these 78 maps only cost like 12 or a handful of chaos. And there's no reason to run them blue. And that in turn changes the difficulty and disincentivizes you to even run them hard. And when you are doing that, you're essentially creating the game to be a lot easier and more attrition based versus skill. Now I know at like high levels, 92 plus, the death penalty is quite significant. 10% is, it can be troublesome. But when you're getting such a surplus of these high maps for so cheap and running them blue, pack size magic, it's just it's really unrewarding, and it takes a lot of the prestige out of it. That's my opinion. What did you guys think about that?
When it comes to cartographer chests and in terms of mapping, they're really nice because in the current state of the game you run out of maps. You have to buy maps. And I think with cartographers, they definitely help with that. It's the plus level of the chest and the item quantity that just I think makes them broken personally.
Oh, so
I
you think it's
definitely have
the
to.
actual mods?
Mm-hmm. What's up,
I
Pop?
would
What were you
definitely have
saying,
to.
Pohx?
I would say I definitely have to agree with Zeno there that the risk versus reward, as you were saying, is so minimal considering you can get your 78s. Is it +5? I believe you said we were talking about.
Yep.
So you can run a 73, craft a chest, and then get 78s out of a 73. Where normally the highest you could get out of
Yeah.
pure luck would be a 75 map.
That's insane. And I've seen people on Reddit get like just a whole bunch of them. Like you get like 10, 12 out of them or something crazy.
Yeah, it's like you can go on a streak where, like, I think people are saying it's like 1 in 25 or 1 in 30. You'll get a cartographers just to pretty much replenish your map pool. And I feel like the game needs to be tuned so that in 4 months or 3 months, you should see your first 100, not 39 days. I mean, I think the leagues will get very, very stale real quick if so many people are hitting 100, and it just needs to be at the highest difficulty so that when they go from that 90 to 100 grind, it should feel like it's a tough thing that they had to endure, that they had to build their character, like you really sought out those items to give you that edge to survive. But the dangers are more often than not being like pushed off the table, and I feel like that was something that they could have improved on. I also think that having a first to 100 reward would have been very exciting too, maybe to see some more ladder struggles and some drama on Twitch or something like that.
I
There's some
agree.
ideas. So I always like to throw out random ideas, but what if they did away with the more quantity gives more chance of maps and more like you can only get at a certain point, let's say around level 75 or so, you can only get higher maps by running a certain level of difficulty in maps. So you have to actually roll above a certain quantity or something like that. I don't know
Right.
exactly how you would flesh that out, but a way that you would force difficulty in order to get to the higher levels, but you can continue running easier stuff and have a very easy like if they made it really easy to get lower level maps, but very difficult to get higher level maps, but very possible to get those maps if you're strong enough.
Okay,
I think would be.
that
see
idea is
what I'm
actually
saying?
really, really good. The only problem is in the current state of the game, you can run out of maps, even if you use Alchem.
Exactly.
So maybe by making it so you have to achieve a certain difficulty on your map to receive higher level maps, they should also implement, but the drop chance is higher. So that way,
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So-
So basically, like you're going to get higher level maps if you run a certain level of difficulty. Otherwise, you're going to get lower level maps. So either way, you're going to get maps, and you can continually run content at the end game. But which level of end game do you want to run it at? That's what would be a cool choice, rather than all being based on chance.
right, pay Pohx.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually really enjoy that system because it really rewards players who invest like exalted upon exalted into their builds that can run virtually any map mod, which would be so rewarding considering you can run nearly any map mod with a huge increase in your chance of success in map game. I think
Exactly.
that's
Right.
really cool.
It would
that
be
would
good,
make it
accurate.
really fun for me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
accurate representation of how powerful your character, and therefore thus more rewarding because you're able to handle those, risky, cutthroat maps with crazy mods. Also, I wanted to, touch up on some of the invasion rewards. I would like to see more, overall at Invasion League, we have higher expectations from the player to know what they're doing to succeed. And I think instead of just giving you the drops outright, I feel like it would be an excellent opportunity to make something like a crafting-based league. So giving you the actual orbs, whether it be chance, alks, fusings, and expect you to know, what to do with them, picking up the bases that you need to complete your build. And I feel like this would be a benefit as a game design because you would be playing on the player's emotions. And we all know this game, there's a lot of gambling, there's a lot of probability. And to get those highs and lows, like you get the surplus of currency, now it's up to you to decide how you're going to use it and how you're going to create and, advance your character into, a much more difficult content. I think understanding the crafting system, it's a impeccable, it's a brilliant design. I love it. I'm a huge fan, and I think that would be another element that they could add. Maybe if you killed an invasion boss, you can go back to town, turn a currency item, and get like 5 chaos orbs or something. Something that included some kind of more reward But
Kind of like a badge system where the harder
Yeah.
invasion bosses, when they kill them, they have a chance to drop something that you can use at a vendor to give you currency. That's really
Right,
interesting.
I
That's
feel
a really
like
good
if you
idea.
just gave currency instead of just like actual, drops and then IDing them and hoping that they were good, that, it was up to the user to utilize their currency efficiently to craft what they needed to, be successful. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's a beautiful
would-
idea.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Since at the moment it's you spend upwards of maybe 5 minutes sometimes kiting bosses with your chances of reward is so slim on what you can find. So I would definitely agree with something on like kind of like a static loot system. Not too crazy, but at least you
Right.
know you're guaranteed something. Because like the exiles for now, for example, you know they're gonna
love
drop
it.
one of everything, and you can get it's very probable you'll get regal or chaos recipe worth items.
Yeah,
Right,
similar
that's,
to what I was saying last week. Like, like if they had a chance to drop certain uniques that you can only get from exiles, or something along those lines, or the whole exile loot system. That's very rewarding in my opinion.
Yeah, as far as like the patch notes note, I'm gonna cover some of the things that I thought was really cool. Overall, I was very, very happy with the 1.12 patch notes. I feel like they're definitely, keeping in tune with what the community needs, what balances need to be made. The visual effects from the, the new invasion bosses, that was, definitely awesome.
Yep.
It's always nice to be able to identify threats, without accidentally sometimes running through it. That was definitely a huge plus in my book. The block penetration gem, I love this. They were listening to the feedback. The builds were becoming a little bit stale in the PvP meta, and just having the block penetration gem, allowing more other, weapon attacks, other than swords. Swords will always have its niche. It will be slightly better than the others, so you're not, automatically held to not being able to use daggers, or you're bad if you use an axe or a staff, or you have that option with that block penetration gem. I think that was a very, very good addition to the meta, especially with PvP.
Speaking of PvP patch notes, with the change to Arc, let's hear your opinion about PvP Arc right now.
Oh man, that's going to be fixed. That remote mine arc nonsense. You just pretty much show
Insta
up.
one shot.
Just you're dead. Like, I'm sure that'll get fixed soon. I mean, they probably know about the cries on the forums and all that stuff. I wouldn't expect that to stay.
I haven't heard
like
about
that
this.
for much
Can you
longer.
explain what you're talking
You
about
remote
for
mine
people who
arc,
don't know?
and then you just run around, and then as soon as the mob is in range you just detonate, and then you just kill the opponent instantly in a global.
Like 5,
So it's
6
just like a
remote
boot-
mines stacked on each other with like added chaos.
Yeah.
in. Despite the damage
It's like-
effectiveness, they're instantly shocked and dead. Boom, gone.
Yeah,
Really?
It's like a booby trap of death. It's broken, but it'll be fixed. I don't imagine that's going to be. Doesn't take much
But
skill
this
to
is
do that.
something. Is this what people are using in like Cutthroat? You're saying, or
No, this
No,
is
no,
just
in
PvP.
PvP. Like,
just so
duels
even
right now.
without having something to bounce, just that first hit will take them out.
You can stack
Because
them.
remember that when you put something on a remote mine, it gets modified by a percentage off that. So if you get like
Right.
remote mine or trap nodes and then put it on there with the huge buff that Arc got, it's like a double damage increase almost in the PvP, just in general. And
Right.
since in PvP is all
Sounds
about burst
insane.
damage, you just put them down, nobody can see them, and then one shot.
You're like,
Ugh.
oh, that guy's arc. Okay.
Well then, I'm dead. Yeah.
It was a great change to Arc. It needed it, but PvP, obviously, I like how GGG takes a PvE aspect and they leave it. They don't change PvE for PvP. They just change the PvP aspect. Well, they'll, like Righteous Fire, for example, they completely cut the damage effectiveness only in PvP.
Oh, yeah.
They need to
Yeah,
do that
no,
with
I-
Arc.
That's good.
I was
It's
fighting with
comforting
my
to know that they
buddies.
can make that.
Yes. So what else about patch notes, Edgy? What else you want to bring up today?
Cleave edition was nice, bringing a little bit more flavor to the leveling capabilities. It was one of the most popular, closed beta, open beta, Cleave, LE Cleave. People just loved it. It was very efficient, but it's nice to bring some other. It could be a little bit higher, even to this day, I think. But definitely don't have to do spectral throw if you don't want to. Don't have to do searing bond if you don't want to. There's just one more helpful option early levels to get you there. The fracturing map mod, that was definitely a huge plus. I like how they're analyzing how many people are just rolling over these fracturing mobs just because it's just not worth it. But at the end of the day, 30% quantity boost is huge, especially when you're running dry on your maps. So it may be considered. The threat is definitely, I think, where it's at, where it needs to be on the item reward. The permacursing to Atziri, I feel like this is a little past due. I think they could have done this a long time ago to make the race more flavorful. And also, I don't know. I feel like if they had tapped into an alpha team that test this kind of stuff and think of ways of breaking it, they could definitely give a lot of feedback and keep the integrity of the race. As fun as possible, as difficult as possible. I mean, the gamers out there are very smart, and if there's an advantage, they are going to take it. They are going to take it. So you need to have countermeasures to reduce that kind of thing to keep the thing, spicy and prestigious. They also increased the drop in fragments, which was needed at this point in the game. There was no way someone's getting 8 stars. I mean, only one person's killed Uber Atziri, and there's just no light and no hope for getting that challenge completed.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to be done in Invasion at all. Like, I'm still wondering how that's going to be done.
Yeah, you'll definitely want to be getting that achievement through Ambush League, or getting an absurd amount of currency and then transferring that to Ambush and then buying what you need. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know the exact drop rates on the increase, but hopefully people will have more mortal fragments to play around and do those bosses. And the last thing on the patch notes. Oh, go ahead.
What'd you say, Colby?
On my first midnight, but isn't the I think one of the problems on the deal is that it's hard to get the Uber Atziri pieces, right? And I feel like I feel like I asked somebody if it was Terry who's been running a lot of them, and he ran I don't know, like 70 or so, or however many before he got. I don't know if that's the case.
Mortal Hope, I think.
Yeah, to get all the pieces for the Uber fight. Yeah.
There's one fragment that's just insanely rare. And lastly, about the patch notes, the Val Orb drop chance, it got reduced. It's sad for me because I started to realize how powerful this orb actually is and what it can do, and I guess it was deemed necessary. I feel like the people are still figuring out how to use this. They're still figuring out its OP-ness, and I feel like it's a great change. Was necessary, and I hope to see a shift in the market.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, and one more thing I wanted to talk about, just to give you some perspective in the map progression in Ambush. Like we're seeing these 78 maps. They're going for like 12 to 16 chaos. When I was mapping in Anarchy and Onslaught, those maps were like 4 to 5 exalts. Like, to have a shrine or a shipyard, you pay top dollar. What this did to the player, it forced you to be aware of the economy. It forced you to trade to keep up with rolling these maps 40 to 70 times. It would be crazy because you'd have to get maze, pack size. You'd want that golden ticket map. And it took so much. So it made you be social via trading and using like economics and stuff. And it's like it's kind of like taking that aspect away by making these maps so common and so attainable, easily attainable. But yeah, that's going to conclude what I want to say about that.
Before we conclude with this patch notes and go on to you, Pohx, Val Orbs, what do you guys think? Should we hold on to them because they're going to go up in currency? Do you think the nerf rate's going to be insane? Like, what's your guys' opinion with that? That's a big deal.
In my opinion, I don't think it's going to change too much because a lot of players still don't know like the true use of Vol Orbs. They're still just randomly, they find a unique that's bad and they just throw a Vol Orb and they think it's going to turn good and then just end up trying to sell to the market. But I definitely want to say hold on to them. I don't think the currency is going to change much. Just as I said, because a lot of players, like, even though the drop rates got changed, there's still so many players in the game that just don't know the worth of it. But I would definitely say hold on to them because the drop rate did go down, of course.
Yep. All right, so let's get into our.
I've got about the Val Orbs. I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. For anyone who's wanting to use Val Orbs very effectively for making money for themselves, I've had some people tell me about this too, and I've tried it out. You can buy mediocre jewelry, for example, that's worth a few chaos. Just throw Val Orbs on them, and if you get a modifier, that's, for example, like an extra curse, you immediately make yourself an exalt or two. So I'll throw the cat out of the bag there. That Val Orbs, people just haven't found the use for them yet, but some people have, and that's one of them.
I think the
Yeah, I'll give you one more. There's like a 1 in 10 chance that you'll actually completely re-roll the item, and in the event it re-rolls, you get 6 guaranteed properties. So
Yep.
it's a good way to change those, crummy items that you either picked up or you alked and they, turned out not so good. But you get guaranteed 6 properties. I've crafted some crazy, crazy items just from the Val Orb chance to re-roll 6 property function.
Another thing with Val Orbs, Empower Gem. You find an Empower Gem, boom, Val Orb, do it. Level 2, now it's an Exalt, instantly. I think that's, and plus you now have a level 2 Empower. You can make any build you want that uses
Oh,
it.
and Black Aegis just reminded me that you can Val Orb a 78 map to turn it into a new 79 map. I don't know if people have seen that yet. But.
Yes, the only problem with that is, like, for my mapping group when we were doing that, is we rolled like a 79 map that was like minus max GMP, and we're like, on a 79 map with minus max GMP, you lost your 78 map. This map is virtually unrunnable, so, but in the end, it's still cool that you can, change it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right before I go into the next part with our special guest here, Pohx, I want to talk about live question and answer session at the end. We haven't had too many questions thus far. We are all monitoring chat. Shoot your questions away. Who you want them to answer it. If it's everybody, put at all. If it's Colby, put at Colby, and we will have a live question and answer session at the end. So go ahead, continue to do so. All right, Pohx, let's hear it. I'm excited about this. Let's hear about your dealie.
So we've got the first topic. I want to go a little more into detail about the invasion bosses specifically. So first off, for those of you who don't know, I wasn't in PoE and I came back because I was so intrigued by this invasion boss system. So the first thing I'd like to say is I really love the idea that they introduced like actual bosses now with completely different mechanics from map bosses. They use, like, for example, the one guy that runs around with a spectral throw and puts storm calls underneath your feet, or like some bosses that have like 4 different scripted spells that they do, like not Mother of the Swarm, the Sunburst Queen. Like, you try to go melee on her, she goes boom and incinerates in a 360. Like, it's so awesome in my opinion how they introduce these features. The only thing I don't like 100% is that, be it you can outrange a lot of the bosses, like all of the totem bosses you can outrange with certain skills. You can put like faster proj on your attacks. Be it like the Sunburst Queen, they don't really move around much. So you can outrange them. It's just the drop rates are so low. But on the flip side, it really does bring in a whole new mechanic of joy, feeling that like you can just fight this boss for like 5 minutes at a time, depending really on which way you look at it. And that's the one thing I like to do is go in a map mod, and you run your map. And before, in Invasion League, you run your map and every rare has the different effect on it. But now in the Invasion League, you kind of just walk around in your maps and you're so cautious at what could possibly happen. Like, you're just running through and you have a GMP map and you're like, all right, so there's a 1 in, I don't know, say 10 chance that it spawns, a boss that drops a totem, and all of a sudden instead of 1 fireball per 2 seconds, it's 6 fireballs per 2 seconds or something, or 4 fireballs. Or you get a Devourer that shoots like 5 beams at your face now instead of 2 beams at your face. Yeah. And
scary.
It's pretty crazy. And one tip I'd like to give to everybody, because I was doing every invasion boss before the nerfs, one thing I do want to address to players, of course it's an opinion, you don't have to do this whatsoever, but make sure that you pay attention to what boss uses a curse. Because the curse dramatically lowers your resistance, and typically if the boss uses a flammability curse, they're going to use fire abilities. And it's something like, for every 1% resistance you lose, it's about 4% more damage. I don't know if that's the exact one, but it's pretty insane considering people go out of their way to try to boost their max resist by like 2%. Imagine getting your resistance lowered by 40% from a curse, and then getting hit by that element. Like,
No.
warding flasks are so insane in this league. It's ridiculous. So that's pretty much it. What did you guys think about that? Like, how do you feel about the invasion bosses specifically?
I feel like the invasion bosses specifically made me want to get the +4 to max resist on all of my characters. And actually, I've been running a Righteous Fire character just for magic finding purpose, but then I'll go go into a map, and I feel like I'm almost cheating the league by playing the character just since I'm always at like 100% fire, and a lot of the scary invaders have fire damage. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to make something else to be less OP, but, you know. So, but the invaders have been so problematic, and I'm just glad that they did tone back some of the like off-screen one-shotting. But what I've been able to do is learn now to whenever I start walking up to new rooms, I'll look at which mobs are in the other room, because you can tell which invader is going to be there most of the time based on the mobs that you see, because you know, okay, this map's going to have, you know, dogs and monkeys and, you know, whatever else. But then you see something you haven't seen yet, and you're like, okay, that's definitely the invader. I got to watch out for that. So it's all kind of a, you know, it's a nice little adventure and journey into just kind of learning how to play the game and learning what you can deal with.
With me, Nemesis, in my honest opinion, the king was evasion. Evasion was so good. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still very useful if you still manage to get some armor along with it, Pohx. I will say that the biggest problem is there's too many mobs that do physical type spells, and you really have to try and figure out a way to make it more possible, you know, how to play the evasion character. On top of that, Ondar's Guile, it's great and all, but it does nothing against Resolute Technique, you know, or Resolute Technique mobs as evasion. You just get trucked. And I wish there was another option for evasion characters right now.
Other than the unique chest piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like I like how Pohx mentioned Flask. It's definitely changed my dynamic. I usually always run with 2 Quicksilvers, and it's pretty much how I built every character that I have in. But this league, you know, I definitely feel like there are much other stronger and viable, safer options to be able to handle a variety of dangerous situations with just that Quicksilver. It's just taking it a little bit slower because, you know, that's a sacrifice you make. And it's a good meta shift. I personally, the nerfs, I didn't feel like the nerfs were all too necessary except for the visual thing. I like that essentially is a nerf because you can allows you to see that threat sooner and it's more pronounced. I do think that, you know, the reward could have been shifted instead of the threat because it is a playable league. Unhost, a lot of people on the top of the ladder have proven it. So, you know, Pohx, you know, myself, it's a manageable league. You understand the mechanics, you analyze the threats, and you don't mess up. You know, most importantly, don't hit that immortal call twice and reset your timer and, you know, things like that. You know, those are things that will bite you in the butt. But overall, very, very fun league. I haven't had any more like difficulty wise. I think it's the most fun league. However, the reward, definitely could have been improved with just dropping lots of currency or something like that.
I have a question for all of you guys. All right, the bosses we all know and are terrified of, you know, like Metalsmith, freaking Judgment Apparatus. Do you guys go out of your way to fight them? Just in all honesty.
I
Go out of my way
personally
to
feel
not
that.
fight them.
Go ahead, Pops.
Yeah, I personally feel that Judgment Apparatus is a joke, and I've never had an issue with him ever. For the sole reason that he curses with Ellie Weakness, which is countered by a Warding Flask.
Yep.
He deals lightning-based damage, which is countered by a Topaz Flask. He had Far Shot, and I was a melee character. So I'd literally just jump in his face, pop my Warding Topaz Flask, go to like 87% lightning res, and just stand in his face. And there's actually a chance with his coding that sometimes he won't even cast his ball, and he'll just spam Ellie Weakness for some unknown reason, which I have no clue why.
Uh-oh, bug report.
Yeah, that's... I think it may have been fixed. It was a while ago, but you got to remember that constructs are really low base life.
Yep.
It's just you have to make sure you address the situation immediately, or else you're gonna die because you're in far shot range or triple shock stacked, and there's another set of piety lightning flying at your face.
Yep. He's ready.
Yeah, I feel
Metalsmith.
the same way as. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Metalsmith. I mean, faster proj off screen, goodbye, leave.
Yep.
Like it's that's insane.
Yeah, that's what I used to do on my Immortal Wukong Sign. Is just use fast proj spec throw to handle like the really silly threats. However, like Judgment Apparatus, I did feel like he was tuned down and he is manageable. I just leap in with Righteous Fire and can burn him. Just the problem is being too far away and he starts to get really scary. I also build my character to where I have enough resist that elemental weakness doesn't have no effect. So that also helps a lot. But yeah, boosting that lightning resist with the Topaz, and it makes it a lot more doable. However, Metalsmith, that is one that I'll always remain to stay far away from unless I have faster proj spec throw.
Fair enough. All right, so Pohx, I want to hear it. Iron Reflexes. Do it. Do it.
All right. So I've heard a lot of stuff about this since pretty much forever about the Keystone Iron Reflexes, and majority of builds these days hover around Iron Reflexes. A lot of old school players use it. A lot of new school players use it. So the truth, in my opinion, about Iron Reflexes is it's not a bad node per se, but it doesn't. If you have the current, you don't need to get it. And what I'm going to explain really quickly is why. So first off, Iron Reflexes is a great tool for leveling. During 2 Iron Reflexes, if you go through the Scion section, you get like 50 to 60% evasion, and then on top of that, that scales off of your Grace, which then you pick up Iron Reflexes, which all shoots to armor. That's great for leveling. You now have flat mitigation, which is perfect. The problem is you lose all of your regular evasion aside from your 5% base chance to evade. If you were to do a hybrid build, say you pick a shield build, right? Just for per se, you can get armor nodes, you can get shield nodes, and shield nodes are insane. People often just skip shield nodes because they don't realize how insane it is. My Line Eye shield, my Line Eyes gives me like 1.7k armor. With Determination on, it actually goes from 1.7k with all of my modifiers to 8,000 armor, which then puts me near 10,000 without Iron Reflexes. Which then in return I can run Grace and get to 8,000 evasion. So now I have like a 40% chance to, evade attacks, 50% mitigation. Then you have your block chance, then you have spell block, and then you have mitigation via endurance charges. And the other thing is, since I'm not really going out of my way to get Unwavering Stance because I'm not Iron Reflexes, you also benefit off of the diminished accuracy from Enfeeble and Blind from Smoke Mine. Which is, you're literally like almost untargetable at that point unless they have increased accuracy. So it's just really insane what you can do without it. And the other thing, like the last thing is, don't feel the need to force yourself to pick up a Keystone just because it's there. A lot of players will say, if you don't have IR, you need to have Acrobatics. You don't necessarily need to. Acrobatics is more of a gear check if you're super endgame, making sure you have your HP value high enough, your mitigation is high enough, your microing endurance charges and whatnot. But do not go out of your way and say, oh my god, I need to get IR, I need to get Unwavering, and I need to get Phase Acrobatics. My character's level 90 as a melee in the Invasion League, does not have Unwavering Stance, does not have IR, does not have Acrobatics, and does not have Resolute Technique. And it's doing just fine. So just explaining to you guys that don't feel obligated to pick up a Keystone because it's next to you.
I noticed you didn't say anything about Anders Guile. You definitely got that one.
Well, Ondar is, in my opinion, I guess a quick thing on it is it's good and all, but when you get to the point, like my character, for example, has 58% block chance, 40% chance to evade attacks from evasion, and then you have Smoke Mine / Enfeeble, which is good and all, but I mean, I don't get hit by projectiles to begin with because of all those modifiers.
Okay.
So I don't really need to go out of my way to spend. I'd rather get like an extra 400 life for those 3 points, for example. So, and the last thing I forgot to cover is once you get to a certain point in armor and evasion, diminishing returns will kick in. If you can get yourself to like 10 to 20,000 armor, which is very manageable with the shield, you don't have to worry about diminishing returns because you're at a low value of armor, and then you can stack endurance charges and get pure mitigation while benefiting off of evasion, for example. That's what I like to do with my characters.
So
yeah, I'll
okay.
kick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. I run my builds a lot like Pohx. Like I had that Batman Wander that dealt with having high block chance and running evasion with Grace. Having that entropy, guaranteed evasion and blocking. Makes it so much stronger because they're counted as successful attacks. Therefore, your evasion makes you almost borderline unhittable. It's kind of like the block cap mechanic in World of Warcraft with the tanks, the shield tanks. But yeah, I agree. The powers of just having block and evasion combined without having IR is very, very... I run a very similar thing with my Righteous Fire with 10k armor and like 45% block with spell block, and it just makes your character feel overall tanky, and every point of evasion that you can get after that makes it so much smoother and fluid. And I really like how this 4 month, the meta has shifted towards a more path of defense. We're no longer all carrying around crit weak, just like, oh, I'll just level up this crit weak, man. It's just, clear this map as fast as we can. We're actually carrying around Enfeeble, Temp Change. They're like, oh my god, temp it. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just like all hell is breaking loose, and it's a good feeling. It's what the developers, I'm convinced what the developers wanted people to do is use other skill gems that they're not used to using. Use Smoke Mine, use Enfeeble, use Temp Chains, have that arsenal available to you. Use different flasks. You know, it's a complete meta shift, and I'm a personal big fan of it.
Colby, IR, feels. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think that IR is actually one of those things that's it's kind of like the poor man's defense. So you guys talk about making your tanky characters, but recently I've really been enjoying making all the casters that rely on taking as much energy shield as possible for EB and MOM, and so being able to grab IR is just one of those ways. Well, I can focus on just someone in my party is going to have Grace, or I'm going to be running Grace. And that's going to give me that tankiness that I would not. There's no way I would have been able to get that from gear without some insane gear that it's not going to happen with with all the energy shield that I'm trying to run. So so for the characters that can't pull that off, it's just an amazing tool for a very cheap. Just go 2 points out of the way of your build or whatever if you've gone down that direction to grab that IR. So but for any other character, yeah, if you're doing the any kind of ranged character, the Ondar is so great to help you protect yourself from your own reflect and block, chance, and evasion. All that stuff works really well together. I think that Iron Reflexes is just much better for characters who cannot get all those different types of defenses.
So Pohx.
Yeah, I agree with Colby.
Yeah, agreeance.
What's up?
So, considering you said IR is a good leveling technique,
Yes.
Keystone, what level or around what gear cap would you want to spec out of that node and then go into something along your spec?
Alright, well, let's see. I'm currently leveling a character right now, a Spectral Throw, and I went down to go for IR because Thick Skin is right there, and you benefit off of Grace. Around the level you spec out, it's really tough. It could be when you get, that 5-link evasion chest piece that you wanted, so you can, drop that and then go for more evasion. It could be when you pick up endurance charges, depending on what you want to do, because of course endurance is insane mitigation. It could be more along the lines of when you get that second reservation, so you can run determination and grace, or whether you're an EB build, you can run Arctic armor with something else. So I think it's more along the lines of when you're theory crafting your character, you have like these little milestones you want to breach, and once you get to that little milestone, just spec that point out and see if you can manage it, and you should be good to go.
And what's a respec point? It's cheap. In worst case scenario, you put it right back in.
Exactly.
That is a great tip.
And it's, yeah. Or one other thing is if you're playing a shield-based build, once you get a high armor shield, about 1,200 to 1,400, you can drop IR if you have shield nodes, and boom.
Awesome.
That's what I would say.
All right. So before we go into the next segment, again, live question and answers. You guys keep coming with those questions. I appreciate it. Also, we're about halfway through with the segments. Stick around at the end for the microtransaction giveaways and the live Q&A again. All right, so next section, we're going to be discussing, it's going to be my ideas on the skill gem changes, and of course, thanks to my Swedish friends, the Mjölner. If I'm saying it wrong, you can all laugh at me. I'm going to kick it off with Mjölner. I think if it was crafted by GGG, I'm not sure, or Diamond Supporter, whoever came up with that idea, I want to give him a round of applause. Might be a little bit game breaking here and there, might need a little bit of tuning, but it is an awesome, awesome unique. The downside of the unique is it takes it's 400 strength and 300 int just to be able to equip it. The bonus is you get to look like Thor. No, but in all actuality, it has a 50% chance to proc a lightning spell, not attack spell, that is equipped within the mace. You are allowed to dual wield them. That is pretty interesting. It would be something more for softcore, I would believe. And you can make tons of interesting builds. The popular one right now with Mjölner is obviously 2 arcs Iron Will, or dual wielding 2 arcs in each with Iron Will. It's really, really strong. People tend to use Cyclone with it is the big one. I'm seeing, because with Cyclone you have a lot of hits.
Lightning Strike.
Lightning Strike, there's another good one.
Because it chains.
Yep. There's so many awesome things you can do with this. A few streamers I've noticed caught on to it. The one I want to talk about today is Discharge. Discharge is both fire, it is lightning, it is cold. So it does have that prefix lightning in it. And with Romeria's Banquet, it is a ring that when you don't crit, you generate power charges. Well, if you pair that with Resolute Technique and Cyclone, you're going to get cap power charges nearly instantly. guess what, guys? 50% chance to discharge those. You're going to be going crazy. Would I play this in Invasion? Hell no. Would I have a blast with it in Ambush? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is a really cool option you could do with it. Also, I was thinking maybe dual wielding, 2 Storm Calls, a reduced duration, along with Iron Will paired with it. I think Storm Call, it's really bad in cast on crit because, delay, that's not what the meta is all like right now in Path of Exile. Any delay skill is kind of frowned upon. But with reduced duration, you might be able to pop them out quicker, and it would be really cool and fun. What else is there? There's Spark. Sadly, Spark is still Spark. I think it needs some TLC, and it needs a big buff in order to use it with Mjölners. What cool, interesting ideas would you guys like to use with Mjölners, or what ideas have you thought about theory crafting?
I just wanted to do it with Arc with Lightning Strike, just because I've always like, I remember back in the day doing the Lightning Strike dagger crit before they had like Spectral Throw and stuff, and I always liked the way it looks. So I've already seen a video of someone doing a Lightning Strike with Arc, and it just looks cool and is really just killing stuff extremely fast. So that's pretty cool. The other one would be the Frenzy Melee Splash with Stun, Endurance Charge, and Melee Stun, and Frenzy Boots, Ramirez Banquet, and just, that's basically what you were talking about doing there. So
Frenzy Boots, what else? Just Enduring Cry, just self-cast?
you can do Endurance Charge on Melee Stun with Stun.
Oh.
I like the idea with because it does have a decent amount of physical and it is slow, and Cyclone, I think you could sustain enough leech off it. It's a very expensive ability, but if you're just going for just to get the pretty much the frequency of hits, loading it up with Arc, and I think that would be really cool. Very cheap way to run Cyclone.
Life on hit with it would be really strong.
Yeah, life on hit. Yeah. Just being able to have mana leech, just pure supports to support Cyclone, just to get those hits. I feel like it'd be a good way.
If I were to use Thor's Hammer, which I might not, but it all depends, I would most definitely probably use Lightning Warp just to see how effective I could possibly make it. Just to see if my character could Lightning Warp to 2 different directions at the same time or something. More of just a fun spec. But I really want to bring Lightning Warp to, I want to bring it up. I want to see if there's any way you can make like a legitimate clear speed spec with Lightning Warp. So that's probably something that I would do.
I don't know if it works, because I used it on my Cast on Crit just to do that. And it didn't work.
Didn't do anything?
It just did it once. It just teleported me once. Even though it started to try and do it, it overrode itself.
Would it cancel out your Cyclone? Like, if you were to use Cyclone and you Lightning Warp, would your Cyclone still be going on when you land? That would be interesting, because then you could just keep porting around.
That's funny. That's
I think the only successful Lightning Warp spec I've seen was actually GGG Neon. He ran Tri-Totem Lightning Warp. It was just like, doosh, 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 just totems going up, coming down at different times. It was really cool looking. Yeah.
And they die less, so you don't have to worry about the crit. You can only run 1 or 2 warding class and be okay with that.
All right.
Right.
I hate Searing Bond just as much as the next guy because it's FOTM. It's finally dying out, but if I were to ever use Searing Bond, I would pair it with 2 Lightning Warp totems. If the totem comes down, the Searing Bond is paired with it. It'd be really cool.
Dude, you'd have your own disco party, just laser beams and fireworks.
I think it'd be really fun. Now, you don't even have to move. You just stand still, man. The totems do the work for you. Yeah.
That's cool.
And I've also done a Lightning Warp, 1 Lightning Warp totem with multi-trap Lightning Warp. The damage from Lightning Warp goes up, and then when it comes down, it'll also do damage. So it's another way you can use it. Anyways, now that Mjölner's out of the way, let's talk skill changes. Obviously, we were just talking Arc. Let's do Arc first. I was expecting a damage effectiveness fix, but they just increased the damage overall by 60%. Is this good? The main reason I'm asking this is I think they kept the damage effectiveness there because pairing it with added chaos, added lightning, any of those, I think that's why they did it, and just increased the skill's overall damage. I actually theory crafted an idea using added cold with like machine gun and then running dual curse, conductivity, static blows, and then getting the 2 increased freeze nodes because the damage effectiveness on added cold would be fairly low. Doing dual curse with frostbite as well. I think you could proliferate shocks and freezes. You guys think I'm crazy here? Do you think that could work?
Proliferating shocks and freezes just
using added cold quality along with frostbite conductivity, so you get freeze chance there, and then getting the 2 freeze duration nodes. If you're casting really fast, you may
talking
be able
about
to
using
chain
crit?
freeze them without using crit. No crit.
I mean, I think by the time it was getting to that freeze, I mean, I would think the freeze would eventually happen, but if they're effective health pool, and I mean, you pretty much have to wait till your shock stacks got up, I think, to be able to, see some actual freeze action going on. And I think they would be dead by the damage from Arc. before
Really?
it
You
got
think
to
Yeah,
so?
if you do
point.
that much damage.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff
Yeah.
clears so extremely fast. I'll be honest, the
Yeah.
changes to Arc, which no one really talked about, but also to Arctic Breath, it just really buffed cast on crit builds a lot. It's insane. I don't know if you've seen anyone doing either the Quill Rain version or the Spectral Throw version, but
Oh yeah.
it's just insta clear. I mean, people can't even keep up with a person doing it. And just the whole map's gone.
Do you think they
Insane.
overbuffed it? I don't know.
I don't know if they.
think-
I mean, I think it definitely could use the buff. It's just I think it just made it really cool. Like it's really fun to do now.
Let's
You can
hear it,
actually
Pohx.
use it.
I was gonna say I'm really scared because of the changes to Arctic Breath, because of one of the invasion bosses. Not to go off topic, but he shotguns with Arctic Breath,
Oh yeah.
and he's hit me for a big chunk of about 5,500 damage with no curses, and I immediately
frog?
left the area. Yes, the leaping frog. He leaps and then fire on the floor and then shotgun in your face.
What is it? Paradise
Yeah,
Alpha, I think his name is, or
Uh,
Parasite
no, I
Alpha
don't
or
know.
something.
I'm
Something
not
like
sure,
that.
but
Paradise
it's
Alpha.
the it's the
Paradise
frog.
Alpha, that's it. Yep.
So I think they just have to be a little careful when they buff one thing. They have to make sure that it's still okay in the game. On the flip side, so that's all. But other than that, it seems okay. Probably gonna see some dual totem builds come out like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think there's so much potential behind Arctic Breath, especially when in a PvP threat, PvP scene.
Oh.
It's going to be a contender.
I think the biggest problem with Arctic Breath still is it's one of the few spells that travel along the ground, similar to like Lightning Strike. And if it hits like the most petty little thing, it just boom, gone.
Oh, it'll stop. That's
yes.
correct.
So unlike
like
Freezing
that.
Pulse, where it could just clear over things, I still think they need to address that issue with Arctic Breath. However, the damage is there. Use Shotgun. Oh my God, it's finally a cold spell that you feel like it could just completely annihilate things like Fireball with GMP. You know?
Isn't it the same damage as Fireball now?
Yep, I'm pretty
Just
sure it
without
is.
the burning, and instead of burning, it's
And then
the
it gives-
utility of freezing.
And it gives you the free temp chains because it has that crap on the ground that slows
Right.
them down. It's
Mhm.
it's a pretty good skill. Now we talked Arctic Breath, we talked Arc. Let's talk Cleave. All right, so Cleave finally got buffed to the exact same damage effectiveness of Sweep. Sweep provides AoE, Cleave provides AoE in a frontal cone. In my honest opinion, I just did a Cleave build. It was fun. It was really cool because I did with swords. You know, you could do swords with Sweep as well. I still think Cleave needs more love. Dual wielders, they're still shy to play the skill. I had a fun time playing it, but I don't think it would be insane endgame. I think it's more used for leveling now. And if you're going to use it for leveling, there's always Reeve. Reeve gives you more range. This, you
Right.
know, Reeve has that frontal cone as well, but it gets big, you know. Or you could pair it with Conk Effect, and it still gets a decent range on it. Whereas Cleave, you need to really invest in some AoE, I think, to make it worthwhile. What do you guys feel
Yeah,
about
I
Cleave?
feel like Cleave is pretty much only if and only if like you find a really good two-handed sword. That's the only reason to probably use it. But you always have Sweep. Sweep is actually the build I'm running now. It's very fun, effective, and I don't know. I feel like there was a big scare with the game being so much cleave leveling that there was a over nerf, and I'd like to see some kind of buff. Like if you're going to be limited to your directional, coverage, you should definitely have some kind of more reward.
Okay, in terms of Cleave, I think that despite it being a buff, it needs to have something similar to Reeve. Maybe not increased AoE.
Yes.
Like Sweep and Cleave, their damage effectiveness is really endgame you can make them work, but you're trying to make them work. Whereas why not nerf it to back down to 70%, but a stacks in succession similar to Reeve, maybe 2 times, and it'll give you like 10% damage effectiveness, 15% damage effectiveness per stack. Yes, multi-strike might be a little OP, but that way the initial hit isn't crazy. You can't one-shot mobs, but there would be some sort of buff.
Here's an idea. Make Cleave do like 20% damage as physical into dot damage, like add it as dot damage.
A
Yeah.
bleed.
So
a
that
bleed.
Thinking that.
You
Something.
slash an item, and then that item or that mob is bleeding for
That
a
is a
portion
great
of your
idea.
the damage you dished. I think that would put it
I
in
would
a good
say-
spot.
as you guys were talking about before, the problem with Reeve, just to go on it again, or sorry, the problem with Cleave is that the contender, Reeve, you can just do so much with it. One big thing is you can kite mobs out of volatile range. So with Reeve, you can literally circle around a mob that can volatile from a Nemesis proc, like the Nemesis mod, and you're out of range with Reeve. Whereas Cleave, I don't know if you're out of range, unless you've got some crazy AoE nodes. So that's one huge problem about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, except I still don't like the idea that you can only use Reeve. You can't use any other skills because of the range fall off if you whirling around.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Reeve
well.
would be a fun ability if they didn't have it work that way.
I don't mind that. I think that's good because that's the best thing about Reeve is stacking up. And with multi-strike, and if you're playing swords, God, that's so easy to do. Oh my God, it's a joke to do to stack that thing up. I don't know. I think
Yeah, daggers too.
Yeah, daggers. I think the Reeve coming off is you need some sort of downside to the skill. It's really strong. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's important to have unique melee abilities, but not have them all work the same. Like, it's borderline. You know, you don't want to have Cleaved feel the same as Reeve. You know, you just got to put something different so that it gives a different feel. Like when you use vulnerability with Cleave, it should be very rewarding because you're like, oh, I'm going to do all this frontal physical damage and then possibly bleed. You know, that will be multiplied. But yeah, definitely could get more love for Cleave.
We just had a question. What if Cleave gets an attack speed instead of AoE like Reeve does? That would be good. That would be a good alternate to bleed. But attack speed, there's already so many things that give you attack speed in this game. I think it would be overkill. You get to a point where it's just like insane. You vibrate.
Yeah. The problem with stacking attack speed as well. The problem with stacking attacks per second as well is Lightning Thorns and Corrupted Blood. That's one thing you have to be very careful of. Is Lightning Thorns in high-end maps can be very scary with crazy attacks per second.
All right, we got one more gem to discuss. It was Poison Arrow. Now, this one I was super hyped about. We just talked about chaos damage in general in the second episode. Poison Arrow got a flat 60% buff across the board on the dot damage, correct? Not the upfront damage.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So before, people were making all these Poison Arrow builds where they invested all of these points just to make the dot do damage. It was almost like a spellcaster bow spec. It was weird. Now, you can actually go a physical Poison Arrow spec because it gets upwards to 59% extra damage as Chaos at level 20. You might want to use an Empower with it still, but you don't have to just make the bread and butter be the dot. You can actually go a physical Poison Arrow spec, get that extra buff to Chaos damage, get some of the Chaos nodes, and then your dot will actually do a decent amount of damage because of the overall buff. I would love to see some physical Poison Rangers now. What do you guys think about that? Think it's viable?
Well, I still think that Poison Arrow has a problem. Well, I saw a guy doing it with traps, and he still only had it up to like 9,900, which is good. The main thing is that you have you take a Poison Arrow build that does. Let's just say you have a Poison Arrow build that does the same as a Fire build. It's still not as good because Fire can reduce by 100 resist. You can use Elemental Weakness, and then you can use Elemental Equilibrium, and then boom, they're completely wrecked. Whereas you cannot do anything about poison resist. So I think that they would either have to just buff poison damage by way more than that, or they need to add some way to deal with resistances to chaos damage. Otherwise, it's just never going to be on par with other skills.
And that's why I said doing a physical variant. You would still do physical damage. Remember, you get chaos damage extra. It's not conversion with Poison Arrow.
And that's just on the initial hit, though.
And that's on the initial hit. But if you pair it with Pierce, I think it's actually pretty dang good. Because the way Poison Arrow works, it works similar to like Val Burning Arrow. Wherever your target is, your cursor is, that's where it will explode. So if you put your cursor on the back, you'll Poison Arrow everything. You'll be complete cloud coverage. You know, you don't need to just keep buffing the damage of the cloud. You get some chaos nodes. But I think that you can actually make a viable Poison Arrow physical spec. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, vulnerability is the way you would scale
exactly.
that. Just the dot damage and the upfront physical. That's the clear-cut curse for that.
Let's say the only issue is the limited scaling, though, compared to other builds where you can roll elemental damage or physical almost everywhere, whereas with Chaos, you're extremely limited unless you're Vol Orbing.
Yep.
So that's probably the only... And it's very hard to roll a plus the gems bow with high fizz if you're trying to do that as well.
It's very true.
I feel like
That's very true.
I feel like that's it's warranted though, because you don't have to worry about reflect, and it's a reflectless other than the upfront physical, which is, you know, not much to say the least, and it's very manageable. So your reward is, you know, it's a lot easier on the reflect aspect. But yeah, you have Andre's Guile and stuff like that to pretty much negate that. So.
But in Invasion, we all know Evasion gets wrecked right now by like Bear Trap looks at you and they're like, how many Invasion bosses have Bear Trap for God's sake, you know? Yeah, I don't know, it's pretty strong. Anyways, that's my take on it. I think that the overall skill gems, it was a good change. We needed some more love with it. I just think that Cleave needs the biggest TLC right now. The change is good, but it's not where it needs to be. So other than that, good job. Fix Arc and PvP because it is going to wreck some kids. All right, so Colby, you're up. We got today. Colby's going to be talking about Glacial Cascade and Smoke Mine. Fire it away, which one.
Yeah, sure, man. So yeah, they added this new spell called Glacial Cascade, and I'll say they really impressed me with the visual effects on this. It's one of those abilities that you take a look at it and you're like, holy crap, that looks amazing. So I of course wanted to try and do a build with this. So I did a build with it, and it's pretty cool spell. It's very powerful. I will say that it adds some options for races, for sure. So I'll talk about that. So it's very powerful skill for racing, and very fun to use in that sense. Now, in terms of scaling, it is a little bit weird that they decided to do a physical portion and a cold portion. Now, when you look at it, you're like, okay, it makes sense because it's little spikes coming out of the ground that seems like it would hit for physical, I guess. But overall, it makes it a little bit weird to scale. You can't use just elemental damage nodes. You have to use spell damage nodes. I guess you can do added fire and you can do hatred and stuff like that, but it's not going to fully scale it as if you were doing an ethereal knife. So there's a little bit of weird stuff to actually deal with. And from what I noticed, I don't actually. Whenever I'm using the ability myself, there's some things like, oh, you feel like you want to use it with LMP or GMP because of the way it shoots out, but it actually works with Conk Effect and Increased Area of Effect. One thing I also noticed that it's a little bit unintuitive in terms of how it's going to hit targets. So if you take Conk Effect on it and you get a certain amount of area, it's going to hit 3 times, but if you get more area, it's only going to hit twice. So it's a little bit unintuitive in learning how to figure out what is the best area size. Like you'd want to just get as much area as possible, like intuitively, in order to hit the whole screen. So it felt a little bit weird in that sense, and I do think that compared to some other spells, it's a little bit lacking on the damage versus what it does. But overall, the skill itself is pretty fun, and I really love using it. So I think it's one of those things where it's not going to be like the most OP build in the game, but it's definitely viable, and it has its uses in that sense. So I think they did a good job with it, and obviously, with the way things are going to be added to the game, you can't just make every single spell in the game the most OP spell in the game, right? Because it's just never going to work out that way. There's going to, a year or two down the line when they've added 20, 30 new skills, it's just going to come down to, people always ask me, hey, what's the best build to do? There's no best build. It's just the build that's most fun. And this is one of those skills that is not going to be the most powerful, but it's definitely one of the more fun to use, I think. So that's my opinion on Glacial Cascade. Before I move on to anything else, I'll let you guys kind of maybe tell me your opinions on what you thought of it so far. I don't know if you've used it.
All right, I can lead this one out. So, Colby, you know me, I always like to think of good ideas. Now, you said there's an option with Conk Effect that does like more of a shotgun effect, whereas Increased AoE does more of a long-ranged, less hits, but you get more range out of it. Do you think it's viable to use Terran Shiver with this? And then use one with Conk Effect, a Glacial Cascade with Conk Effect, and then one with Increased AoE. That way you have your single target and you have your AoE portion. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Yeah, if you can get the sockets down for that. What I had actually planned, like I thought about using Terran Shiver and for the Fuse Chance and all that, but I decided that it would be best in order to scale the damage of this to just do a full crit build. So Terran Shiver doesn't work too well with that because you want to get like a crit, crit dagger, crit wand, and then a crit shield. So that's the way that I felt it would be scaled best. But definitely, if you can get your freeze chance high enough and your cast speed going there, so where you're consistently freezing stuff, maybe throw on an LE per lift, then you're giving the entire party that extra 20% damage. In that case, it works. So you basically, it feels like you're doing the freeze pulse type setup.
Even an added cold quality would help out with that too.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's true. It definitely works out in that sense.
What do you guys feel about Glacial Cascade?
I don't know. It's pretty interesting. I've never actually gotten to use it. I'm really intrigued by the way you described it, Colby. How you said like the finer the area, like the more condensed it is, the more hits it gets because it's smaller, so it's easier to hit consecutively. And then the bigger, it covers a wider area, but because I guess the pulses are so far in between each other, it just covers a wider area and does it. I think that's really cool. I think that's a really good way actually to deal with lightning thorns by putting conk in a way because it's hitting quicker, but it's dealing so much more damage rather than spamming it. Well, like, what do you think about that? Like, you think you'd be all right on lightning thorns packs?
Well, lightning thorns. I mean, well, technically, on lightning thorns, if you do conk effect, you're hitting more times, so
Right.
it's gonna. Yeah, but then again, it's more like if you're hitting less mobs, maybe you're gonna deal with it. But I think that I don't know necessarily because I haven't gotten super late game with really bad lightning thorns, but I don't think it's gonna be as much of a problem as a build that's doing like lightning arrow or split arrow, just in the sense that those are gonna hit a lot more mobs and they're harder to control because you're shooting off screen. Whereas this one, if you see lightning thorns, you can attack once. I don't think you're gonna one shot yourself with lightning thorns with one attack because it's only gonna hit up to, like 3 to 5 times maybe based on how many mobs you hit, and then you can stop attacking. But it more comes down to just okay, there's lightning thorns. I'm not gonna be crazy and just go nuts on this. So that's just one of those things. I think that lightning thorns is a huge crutch for a lot of builds, but as long as you're paying attention and you're not just letting yourself go crazy on it, then you can manage it. I feel like it's manageable, is what I'm trying to say.
A mob ability is OP when, one, they don't give it to the players, and two, you have to build your build around lightning thorns. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
Reflect I get. Lightning thorns is like, I don't know.
Yeah, you basically have to run a topaz in order to encounter those situations, in a sense.
I feel I've seen Vanguards run it in some high level maps, and I don't know. I'm more of a fan of the heavy hitting, higher quality, and I feel like in this current state of the game that especially with the leech changes, you need to see some more like life on hit. Maybe using like I don't know, Sybil's Paw or some life on hit spell action would reward the the frequent hits. And I feel like a lot of these spells, especially the cold ones, like Freeze Pulse and Cascade, put you in a vulnerable situation. So I feel like the reward needs to be really good. Like you have all these strong range characters, clearing off screen, and it's a little unfair to me, like to go up against these hard, heavy hitting bosses and to do similar damage. I think you should have a very significant damage, especially when it comes to clear speed, because you're having to get up close and personal with these beast mobs. Speaking of mobs, we haven't talked about the Exile changes. Does anyone want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. I mean, we did talk about iron reflexes and dodge. It is unfortunate that they added some of these skills that are one-shotting people. I've heard so many people have trouble with Angelina Poor because, for one thing, let's see, she uses Val Burning Arrow, which, by the way, is cannot be dodged. So all of the dodge characters are completely
Can't be evaded.
messed with on that
It
one.
can be dodged.
And what?
It can't
Can
be
it?
evaded. It can still
Oh,
be
that's
dodged.
what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. Dodge, yes, but evaded, sorry. Terminology. But thank you for the clarifying that. But yes, I've talked to people where like the whole group was wiped out by one of these burning arrows that just smacks them and bounces between and knocks them out. And then there's the I guess a couple of others that do the flame blast has been pretty crazy from what I understand. Which I've been using my righteous fire character, so I take 0 damage from that. But that's a little. I can't talk about that one as much, but everyone else that has ran into that has been like, man, I'm getting almost one shot with one stack of that. So some of these changes have been really insane. Like they kind of what they did was they took the invaders, toned them down. They're like, but we still want you to get wrecked. So we're gonna put exiles where the invaders were, but maybe even worse in some sense. So I don't know, man. I think that's maybe just a few more tweaks and that'll be good. But maybe tone down the amount of spamming they can do with the Val skills.
The changes to Exiles are good because Ambush, it needed it to be a little bit harder. So now it's definitely harder. Secondly, Exiles everywhere. How freaking cool is that? Igniphoenix level 11 on ledge. Okay, time to die.
Right. Well, that's one thing that I had talked about where when they added the Val skills is that it made that race kind of undoable in the sense that everyone's getting one shot by the Flame Blast guy, and then everyone's running into the Val summoned Skellies, and they can't get around those. So.
Or you get Glacial Hammered inside of the Flame Blast. See you later. Oh my god.
What I love about the Exiles is, especially the new ones, I feel like the developers are just having a blast. They're like, oh, the community hates Searing Bond. Well, let's make them really hate it with this guy. So I
Bond
thought
and
that
Flame
was,
Blast.
yeah, that reflects the company and the way the developers just, they like to have fun, and it's definitely rewarding because I definitely felt like the Exiles were way too easy, and they dropped relatively good rewards, like Pohx said, one of every item. It's definitely a good spice to the game. Some of them are pretty crazy. It's kind of like relearning it, and I find them exciting. I think the difficulty and reward are pretty spot on, and I always try to roll for them in maps too. It's definitely nice. Pohx, do you have anything to say?
Yeah. Not really. It's just I'm terrified when I run 78 palace maps, seeing a damage mod, and like now I have to peek in for an invasion boss and I have to peek in for an exile. And I think one time I opened the door and had a Vol burning arrow hit me in the face for like maybe like 5,500 as well.
Jesus.
And then you pretend you could close that door and then you just leave. But, I mean, other than that, not really much. I mean, I like the elements of death almost everywhere. It makes it really enjoyable for me. It's just kind of going again on the same thing of like the loot is just not on par, but it's a lot of fun for me in my opinion, so I'm still okay with it. That's about all I have to say.
All right. So, Smoke Mine, Colby. I know this one's you're a little salty about this. Let's hear it.
Oh yeah, sure. So they went ahead and they made a change to Smoke Mine so that it no longer allows you to reposition your minions. And I feel like I played Summoner and I way back in the day, back in original hardcore before the new leagues and stuff. And Summoner was fun and stuff, but that definitely was a huge issue and still is now. That the minions being not being able to be repositioned can be a huge problem. So summoners are still strong, even with it being taken away. It's just that they're a lot less fun to play, I should say. So for me, it felt like, and I know they're going to add this back in. I saw a post that they're going to add back in. I just felt like they should have waited to take out Smoke Mine until they added a way for you to manage your minions better. So the change to Smoke Mine, it felt like a hasty change because they nerfed the power of the bubble minions, which that was really the real thing they were trying to target, I think, is the fact that you can just keep repositioning your bubble bros, I call them, onto yourself, and always have that like immune shield. So it definitely needed tuning. I just feel like they could have done it a little bit better with adding in a repositioning skill as they took out the ability to use Smoke Mine continually, like without a cooldown. So that's the main thing with Smoke Mine. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just it's an interesting skill to use on its own, but the quality of life being added to the game and then being taken away is just one of those sudden things that kind of hurts whenever you're using a build and relying on that, and it feels almost like they said, okay, it's too strong to use hotkeys. We're going to take the hotkeys out of the game because we want you to click the buttons now. That's what it felt like. In a sense, whenever taken away. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean,
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to agree with you. Go on, Hedgie.
I was just gonna say they could have been a lot better with the transition. I mean, they knew it was going to upset a lot of people and break people's characters, and then now they're just sitting there. Well, I have all this gear for summoners. Well, what do I do? Do I just liquidate it and buy some regrets or re-roll? I mean, yeah, I felt like if you had a lot of summoner nodes, since it was a ninja fix, they could have rewarded those players the respec with the possibility of, hey, I'm not going to be invulnerable. My gear is not necessarily going to work the way I wanted it to, so I'm now going to have to need these nodes over here. So should have been able to get that opportunity to respec. I feel since it was a ninja respec, I feel like ninja respecs are warranted when they do a ninja fix. Like if they let the community know, hey, we're changing this side of the tree. So if someone goes and exploits their way and gets there just so they can get a free respec, I think that's really lame. But if they're gonna hotfix something or change something like this detrimental for somebody's build, they should have the freedom to get out of it if they want, or accommodate the change.
I don't think this ruined summoners. Summoners are still strong, like I said. It's just that I feel like they took out one of the ways that makes the game work better. Like, for example, it's like I feel like, oh, okay, we took out the ability to right click to move, or I don't, like it's just it feels like part of, after
Whoa.
using it for a while, it feels like part of a summoner. I don't know how to. I'm trying to give you an analogy that makes sense. Like the ability to control your minions felt like a very essential part of playing a summoner, because at the moment they get stuck on the other side of walls, and then they'll run and stand in burning ground, or things like that.
Yep.
You just want to move them out and control them. And it's really difficult. They've got it to where you can use an ability and they'll go attack that target, and that's fine. But the ability to move your minions out of danger and to get them unstuck from ledges and things like that, and whenever you leap over, like if you use Leap Slam or Lightning Worm to jump over a cliff, all your minions are stuck on the other side. So it just felt like, okay, well, I no longer have an option to deal with these situations that makes the character more manageable. That's all.
Okay.
So it's still strong. Still strong. It's just that I lost the ability to walk correctly. Is what it felt like. So
My take on all of this, I think that both people are to blame. Both the people playing the spec and GGG. I think that if you see someone popular playing a spec that is borderline exploitable, you understand that when you make that spec, it is going to be changed. Every flavor of the month spec, they get changed. It just happens. Okay, secondly, you have to understand that I don't think they deserve a respec, Hedgie, in all honesty. What I think is, I'm going to agree with you here on this one, Hedgie, that they should have released something to the players, such as the mechanic they're releasing soon. Obviously, Smoke Mine, the way how minions can already port to you has already been coded. So it would be very easy to make that gem, I would think. So, however, Smoke Mine got its change. The mobs, I don't know if both needed to be nerfed at the same time. I do feel that they should have released the gem along with it. So I think that's where GGG messed up. But It's a live and learn thing. We're all human. We make mistakes. And when you play a flavor of the month build and you expect it not to get nerfed, oof, that's a risky thing. And no matter what game you play, no matter what, those patch notes are coming and they're going to come quick. That's my take on it.
I think that actually there's one big aspect that a lot of people don't realize about how big the Smoke Mine change was, like how detrimental it really is actually to the build. Summoners are still insane, but you lost so much clear speed. Like, you can't summon your minions to you now. Like, if someone's going to use Vol Cyclone and pull everything, you have to expect that your summons are smart enough to target the source of where it's coming from. But they just won't do that. If there's an Exile, you can't pull them away. They're going to go run at the Exile. If, some bug happens and your minions get stuck or desync into a closed room, they're going to die. So people who snapshot are pretty much ruined on that if something dies from that. They can't log off because they lose their Spectres. They can't get them out of the door unless they put themselves in danger. There's just a lot of inconvenient events now that can occur because you can't summon your minions back. And I've never played a summoner before, but I can just understand how annoying this might be. And when you guys gotta put like the realistic realization in, when you're running maps, there's two ways of getting maps back. You either A, roll dangerous maps and hope you get them back, or B, you just speed clear. You just run as fast as you can through. You clear like majority of the mobs and you just keep on rolling through. And if you can't do that anymore, you're pretty much forced to play the dangerous route or take it slow, which kind of, in my opinion, is a little poor. But
Or C, you roll on ambush.
Cartographers. I mean, they're not
I will
everywhere.
say this for summoners. Like, I have 2 summoner builds, one on ambush, one on invasion, and a buddy who rolled my ambush on invasion. The summoner that doesn't really have to worry so much about the Smoke Mine change is the elemental animate weapon summoner, which initially was the idea was brought to me by Uber, and then I built a build around that idea, and it works so amazingly well, because who cares if your stuff gets stuck? You're just raising up weapons as you go, and zombies can be raised up, and you're not snapshotting anything, and that's one of the more fun builds that I've done. So that I'm just throwing that out there. People can check that out. It's elemental animate weapon summoner, super strong.
When it comes to summoners, I think snapshotting, unfortunately, has been accepted into this game, and I think they do need to fix it, but fixing it would break the game completely. That is such a huge pain in the butt for them. I will say that what they need to fix most with summoners is low-level playability. When you choose a spec, you want to play that spec. At low levels, it's just not possible. You're
right. I didn't even think to mention that, but that's a huge thing, in my opinion, is making a lot of spells more viable in the early game. And yeah, dude, I would love to play Summoner as like a leveling spec.
Absolutely.
But you just can't do it. Zombies die in like 2 hits and they don't kill anything, and it's so slow, it's painful. And man, I would have so much fun if I could actually level up as a summoner. Like I think a lot of people that play the game, like I've actually watched some of my friends play, because I'll have friends over the house and they'll play the game, and they feel like a lot of people who pick up Witch, they want to start using summons, and like I think you can invite more people to play the game and have more fun if you can actually, if they just made them viable for the early game.
There are some options they could do to fix that. Make it so the gem prior to a certain level, it'll give you scaling off of your gear. Like, for instance, life is the biggest problem with minions. You need those nodes, survivability. But at the same time, people might just make a spec and never level that gem. So there's a lot of things they need to do to fix that. Or increase its defenses early on, and then the amount of scaling it would get late game, I don't know. There's ways they can fix it.
I would love to see like a summoner as a race spec. That would be pretty insane.
Hell yes.
Oh, it'd be so fun.
goodness.
Yeah.
You think D2...
one of my favorite things in the game is to just have all these cool leveling uniques and just level a character really fast, I don't know, it's just fun for me to be really strong and OP in the early game, and I just want to use more abilities early on. So, yeah, anyways, that's my 2 cents on that.
Sorry about being loud, guys. Anyways, you think D2, you could play Summoner right from the get-go, and it's a blast. That's where I want Summoners. Get rid of snapshotting and do that.
Yeah.
I know it's hard,
That's
a lot easier said than done. Sorry, Pohx.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was gonna say the big misconception a lot of people have when they come to this game is a lot of games you'll play, at least a lot of games I've played in the past, summoners own early game and fall off late game. In PoE, it's summoners are not very good early game and scale late game. So it's like the complete opposite, which I think is interesting to an extent. But of course, it'd be nice to have some type of performance there early game that can actually keep on par with something, essentially.
Yeah. I also in the current state of the game, there's no real like projectile summons. You got zombies, you got specters, and if you go specters, you can make a projectile. I would like to see some sort of like skeletal mage or something like that, because there's all these melee summons, like some sort of skeletal mage gem. Yeah, you got Val summon Skelly, they have kind of a thing. You got specters, but I want to see just nothing but like bowers, mages. That would be really cool for summoners too. More options, because with summoners right now, it's a spec comes out and that's the only spec you play with summoners. Burning Miscreations, it was the ribbons at one point. The what's it called? The tentacle dudes, the titty bitches. They go through flavor of the month with summoners. I would like to see a lot more viable builds with it.
Somebody had asked, I just want to clarify, we always use this term, but a lot of people still are confused about what is snapshotting. I can just sum it up. Basically, with summons, you can take items and skill gems, and that give you increased damage and life on your minions. So you can put on like a Queen's Decree that gives you extra move speed on your minions. You can go summon a zombie and then go back to town, take off those items, and then when you go back outside after you've already taken off the items, those stats remain on those summons until those summons die. That's what we call snapshotting. We snapshot those stats into the minions that are summoned, even after the items that gave those buffs have gone away. So hopefully that makes more sense for anyone watching.
The most broken thing about snapshotting too is not only do you get to keep those stats, you get to keep that gear because you're going to put in your stash. So if you die, you still have a full spec. Yes. Secondly, you can go MF at this point. You can go IIR and get all this extra loot. So there's really no downside to snapshotting. It's just ridiculous. It does so much of the game. It's borderline cheating, in my opinion. But it exists, and they allow it to exist. So until it gets fixed, it's not cheating,
Yeah, we have a couple questions, good questions coming up with the viewers about snapshotting. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit.
Sure. So live Q&A. You want to kick it off now? You guys feel good? You're content with everything? You got anything else to throw out there? I miss Shockwave Totem. Anyone play Shockwave Totem?
No, I didn't. But the last thing really fast is probably like just to go over the fact of the one thing I dislike about it of snapshotting is, as you said earlier, that you can have your full stash, like your actual gear is in your stash. So if you die, you can recreate the character again and it sits there.
And like you get
pretty
richer.
much you invest in your gear that you cannot lose. So that's
I
all
completely
have to say.
agree, Pohx. And the only thing you need to replace is cheap IIR gear. You're like, whatever. Oh, Nazar's, whenever, those gloves. All right. Live Q&A. So what we're doing right now is we're transitioning into a live question and answer session where you guys, all the questions being asked throughout the podcast, we're going to be answered. Unlike last time, I'm not going to go through a chronological order, if you will, when they were asked. We're going to bounce around. We're going to choose some questions at random. That way, if you tuned in later, your question may still be asked. That is a recent change to the podcast. I think it'd be more fair because not everybody can make it right at the start. So if we get your question, that's awesome. If we didn't, I apologize. Let's kick it off. Hedgie, read it. Do it.
Okay, the first question is to all of us. He says, I don't know who it's from. It just says at all. I don't know how many people actually get to the endgame maps because of this. The situation reminds me of Sunwell content. If only 2% of the community sees 76 plus maps, isn't that lame? Well, the game is hard in general, and I feel like 76 maps and endgame content are for the people that put 2 and 2 together. It's a big puzzle piece, and there's a lot of resources. If you're having problems getting to that map tier, I would strongly suggest the Twitch community. They're very, very helpful. They can inspire you to make very successful builds, and you can even spin your own variations to them. That's what's so awesome about this game. The possibilities and combinations are endless. There are many, many ways to break your character to where it makes it feel like you can't go any further. But there's all the information that you need to know out there. Ask the advice among the community, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you out. What do you guys think?
What I think is, considering I'm one of the not part of the 2%, I've had 3 successful hardcore characters where I was able to do those maps. I find enjoyment in theory crafting and making specs. I am by no means pro like these 3 here. I will completely say it. No, by all means. I think this game has a lot more to offer than just endgame maps. PvP is coming out soon. All these new skills and abilities constantly getting changed. I like the feel of playing a character and seeing if it works or not. Granted, I may not always make it to endgame maps because I'm, again, not a pro player. I do think that maps aren't the be-all, end-all. At first, they seem that way, but I think this game has more to offer than just endgame maps. What do you think, Colby?
Okay. So I actually do empathize with what he's saying here. Not just in maps though, but the maps I feel like are actually okay because you're not really missing out on any actual content that you haven't seen. You've already seen the bosses, you've seen the Dominus and stuff as you leveled up, and it's randomized maps and things like that. So it's just harder versions of what you've already seen. Now the only thing that I would like to see is like a easier version that lower level players can actually do of Aziri, for example. So I imagine there's going to be very little people in this game that ever actually get to experience the Aziri fight, and that's the only thing that I would say. It would be nice if they had like a dumbed down version that it obviously doesn't have those kind of rewards, but it's something that people can go into and experience. For example, you level up, you fight Dominus whenever you're level 30 or so, and I think that's good for the game. And then they can expect, okay, if I get really good, I can have the super ultra version of him in the late game. That's the whole Uber Diablo concept, for example. So that's what I would like to see is like a version of Aziri that lower level players can do. That's the only thing I have to say about that.
That's a great point, really.
What do you think, Pohx?
Yeah, I would definitely have to say I definitely agree with what everyone's saying here. It's one thing I'd like to say though is like it's a crazy relief like when you actually get to the endgame mapping because like oh my god, yes, I hit endgame content. I hit the 78 maps. It's wonderful. It's plentiful with experience, but I'd say it's really rewarding. Like it's really cool working your way up like from 66s all the way up if you end up building your whole map base up to 78s. It's definitely like one of the most rewarding experiences you could ever feel until you lose your base. But other than that, it's pretty cool. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Cool.
All right. So, Pohx, next question. Read away.
All right. So, let's see. We have message from Trizex. Message from NBKLS. What do you guys think of the difficulty leap from Nemesis to Invasion in terms of invasion bosses? And now some of the overpowered exiles. I know some hardcore players that are going to ambush are quitting due to the how high the damage they deal now. Or you're forced to play defensively, then feel relieved after the invasion boss is dead. Do you guys think the next hardcore league will be easier, or was invasion a test of what they have for future next hardcore leagues? Holy crap! I'm out of it. Sorry about that.
That was a mouthful.
So go ahead and kick that one off, Pohx.
Yeah, so I would definitely say I think that GDG has learned from this one. I think they learned that not necessarily that it's too hard, but necessarily that spike damage is so prominent right here. I'd say that's probably it, and I think that's kind of like how they worked in Nemesis. In Nemesis, what they did is they made it so it like each rare mob has the effect that counters a little bit of every build, but doesn't make it unplayable. Whereas in this league, if you don't have a certain resist requirement, if you don't have the health value, if you don't have spell block or something, you can pretty much get insta-gibbed. And I'm pretty sure they're learning from that. And in the next one, you're gonna see maybe a mixture of everything again, kind of how they did it in the other league. So that's definitely what I would say.
Yeah, I feel like the meta has shifted definitely, and I feel like these are invasion bosses. They didn't program them for no reason. They will be in future leagues. If you've listened to other podcasts and other interviews, their goal is to make the game harder and harder over time, and they'll definitely be nerfed because they are going to be released in permanent leagues, and they got to give the permanent leagues more flavor for them too. It's not just all about the new stuff. If you want to be, doing the newest content, then you got to play in the new leagues. But there's no reason to play, take those aspects away, especially after, being so successful and, all those mechanics being programmed to just dump them out the window. So expect to see them in the next leagues, and they'll be nerfed.
Let's hear it, Colby.
Yeah, so you can also keep in mind they do say that the new leagues are their testing bed for potential new content in the game. So of course there's going to be things they get right, things they get wrong, and the good thing to note is that they have, in my mind, quickly found some of these really stressful situations and they've toned them down. It just shows that they are definitely working to make the game better. They're not just throwing stuff in and then be like, well, screw it, you guys, if you don't like it, that's too bad, we made it. They've already made a lot of this much better. So it's just, it was such a huge shock that I think a lot of people were like, whoa, I was not expecting this, what's going on, guys? But now, if you're playing the game, you're starting to figure it out and stuff. So, but that's it. That's all I got for that.
All right, for me, Invasion is, I don't know. I'm mixed feelings about it. My biggest pet peeve with Invasion is specs that you used to love and they were really fun to play. Two-handers, for example. If you don't have block, I feel like if you're playing a spec without block, it's just like real scary. Searing touch builds, ETUP played one for a while, correct? A lot of people are like, I don't know if I want to do this. He's using a staff. Yeah, you could get block nodes, but still, I want a shield. Two-handers, I think they need some TLC big time since Invasion because it only offers you so many specs. There's only a set few amount of specs you can play in Invasion. The fun spec aspect, granted, you want to try and balance hard, defenses with fun, and I think that it's really hard. I think it's really hard, especially now with CI. CI's, it's gone. It's really hard to make CI viable. All right, yeah. Let's see. Next question. We got Fur Call. Everyone, what gem would you like to see buffed, and how would you like to use it in a build? I'll kick this one off. All right, gems that absolutely need some love. A lot of people want Puncture to be buffed. No, it's a PvP skill. That's my honest take on it. Gems that I think really need some love are Elemental Hit. I've said this time and again. Please, for the love of God, just lower the mana cost and give it a cool animation, and I'm there. Sign me up. Spark. Spark has been killed. I want to see Spark back to where it once was, but don't make it broken where Spork totems were all you saw running MF. I think those two skills are the ones that need a lot of love. What do you guys take?
I personally feel Lightning Warp, if they ever want to make it like some type of damage base, maybe it's great for mobility, but if you compare it to like Leap Slam, for example, I've made Leap Slam builds and Leap Slam has worked and it's done its job in builds, but I've never had a Lightning Warp build before. So maybe because it might be a little overpowered, in that sense, but Lightning Warp is something I've always wanted to do. But actually, on a flip side, as for Puncture, you can actually make legitimate Puncture builds because it goes off of your physical damage on the bleed, if I'm correct. Because I've seen crit Puncture insta-killing bosses, like instantly killing bosses on maps, from just walking with damage over time, crit damage, insta-dead.
But that's single target only. The AoE aspect of Puncture is...
yeah, that's true. I mean,
a lot of people want me to do. I've been theory crafting a build where you would do like a explosive arrow trap, and then you would weapon swap to a Fizzbow for a single target and do puncture crit traps, because you're still scaling multiplier and stuff. So that would be an idea that a lot of people want me to do. I've been working on that gear for it. I haven't got around to it, but yeah, I've heard that too. The puncture traps are apparently brilliant, and they're good for PvP too.
Oh yeah, I want to see an explosive arrow crit build. I think that'd be hilarious. Not just with trap, but just explosive arrow crit.
Oh, they exist. They exist in PvP.
Oh
I've
yeah,
seen
they're
them.
there. Oh yeah, they're crazy.
Some of the buffs I would like to see: Iron Will, knockback, stun. I'd like to see some interesting mechanics that either uniques utilize. Chance to flee, some stuff that just never been brought to light, or I've seen chance to flee one time in my entire time playing Poe, and it was some guy using Reeve to mez the Itsiri mobs to not let her get too close. They would just kind of like wander. That was one cool way, but I think that they could do a lot more, maybe especially with like elemental stuff. I don't know, but I feel like overall the game's in a good spot. I feel like they just need to bring some gems and some other skills brought to scene. I definitely think low-level stuff can be tuned, pretty substantially without affecting the end game. Just to spice up the early games. But yeah, that's what I would like to see.
There you go.
The next question, Sweet Nesson. All I want to know is, this is towards all of us. All I want to know is how many people would consider Poe or PoE as a hardcore game regarding invasion leagues if OOS did not exist, and if as well as instant logout. I'll kick this one off. I feel like it's been said time and time again in many, many podcasts and many interviews that the game is tuned so that people can escape. And if they were to take away this feature, then they would make the game significantly easier. So I think the game, as far as difficulty, the ability to react, it takes some skill. It takes some skill to recognize, but there are ways and ways of playing, stuff to avoid to make your life easier with sync. And overall, I'm very happy. I really don't really mind the instant logout feature. It keeps the game very hard and interesting.
I definitely agree with that, because there are some scenarios where you don't see yourself getting into, and logging out is probably one of the very few ways of surviving, unless you have insane reflexes, which is, even then, you have to like time your pot to dispel a shock, then dispel a burn, then get out while hitting like a lightning warp or a leap slam. But in reality, you're not always put in those scenarios, and I think having the OOS command just, I don't know, I guess, as you said, if you remove something so vital, you have to kind of tone down the game. And I'm very happy with the difficulty setting that it's at, kind of as you said.
I'm in complete agreement. Like that's exactly what I would say. What both of you said.
Colby?
Yep, that's basically it. So in order to take that out of the game, they would have to like redesign the game into the sense to where you had like more life and stuff did very constant damage that would kill you very quickly if you made a mistake. And I don't know, it would just be a completely different game. So I like where it's at the moment. They would have to change too much for me to really even think about that, to be honest. So let's see. The next question is So what do you guys think about having more achievements that deal with the difficulty, i.e. running a map at 160 quantity and kill piety with minus max, etc.? All right, so that question, I'm guessing, are you saying like achievements around completing those type of mods on bosses? That's what I'm guessing the question?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Like in WoW, there's like achievements where it's like, oh, you beat this boss with 18 people instead of 25. Things like that, where you make it harder. That's
definitely a good thing. Like achievements are one of those things where it pushes people's limits in the game. Sometimes people will create their own achievements, but it's just one of those things that make the game more fun. It's like, oh, here's some really cool stuff that I can strive towards. Right now, the achievement being, hey, let's do Itsiri and stuff like that. But yeah, making a little bit more flavor to maps, that could be cool. I would like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it was me that asked the question. Yeah, it was me that asked the question. But I just wanted to, some way to like go to someone's profile and to see, he's like, hey, I run this build. Yeah, I have these achievements, and be like, oh, well, this guy must have a lot of credibility, or just like, man, that guy is a badass. You're just like, or something like that. Some way to distinguish yourself that you can't really buy. I guess you could. I guess you technically could buy, but you would at some point put your character in danger.
Complete the game with Veil of the Night equipped. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I think
That'd be very interesting.
the challenges and achievements right now, the T-shirt concept is cool. I think the Atsiri one is unbelievably hard. I think challenges in this game need to give something to keep players more interested. At the end of these 4-month leagues, they need to keep people interested in the game from a business standpoint. They need some sort of way, incentive to do that. Challenges would be that. Increase the number of challenges to maybe 15, make some easy ones, make some extremely hard ones, and then give the player some sort of something they can keep forever that nobody else has access to. Similar to, I hate bringing up this game, but League of Legends, at the end of the season, if you achieve gold, you get this cool looking skin forever. No one else can ever have it. Why can't they do that for a 4-month league, That would also entice more standard and hardcore players to switch over to a 4-month league to get these kind of cool microtransactions. Templars can have pants, for God's sake. I mean, how cool would that be?
Yeah, I would say to finish it off, in my opinion, I really like the idea of running, like, say you roll a map. So say 77 Shrine has Piety as the boss, and the achievement would be do like double Piety with GMP, because Piety benefits off GMP.
Oh my god.
So things that augments the map bosses to make it so it's the map boss that's actually scary and not just the things inside it, and earning the achievement for that, I think would be really cool. Or like they would, you know what I mean? Like making it so that map mod is designed to make that boss scary, and when you clear it, you get the achievement unlock. I think would be awesome. So
I want to piggyback on that one more time, just to make sure that there's no like zerging or I'm at 0%. I'm just gonna keep zoning in until I get it. Like it needs to have some kind of limitation where if you die once, it's yeah, like it's got to have some kind of limitation. Especially, I felt that way with Ambush. What really took the flavor out of those lock boxes, if you died, you could just come back and throw your body at it.
Yep.
At it again. Yeah. So excuse me.
When you die,
like
the
that
lock
should have
box
been
disappears. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
just talked over you.
That's
I'm
exactly how I feel. Just it should disappear. You get one shot to clear it. If you die, oh well. Move on.
Like every time you click it, you have an Eminem saying that. You got one shot.
Let's move on.
All right. So
Romo 111.
Going back to this,
Oh, go ahead.
Romo 111. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, with GGG dumping every single league into standard, or every single league into standard after they are over, where do you guys see the future of standard? Well, it's actually not every single league. It's just the softcore leagues, not the hardcore leagues. But with that, I just want to start off by saying it's a crazy influx on standard league, and if you weren't in it from the get-go, it's really hard to get like super top tier items. It's pretty easy to face roll though. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about it.
Let's hear
I
it,
like
D.
it. It's like a trophy post. It's like where you have all of your cool legacy stuff, and you have your crazy in-game build that you go back to every once in a while, and you just use your new leagues for new stuff. I think it is what it is, and it's nice. I like it. It's fine. I don't mind it.
I feel it's
All right.
completely balanced as well. Like I have no qualms with it.
Go ahead and read the next ones.
Alrighty, got to pull it up. Sauce, where is he? What can GGG do to make other builds viable in Invasion? There are currently very, very few bow users and self-casting spell users. Alright. Heck, when was the last time you guys saw a bower kill Itzyria on freaking Invasion? I don't think I've ever heard of it. It might have happened, but bowers need some love. And I think that brings me back to my whole Evasion getting wrecked. You go IR, you're taking 100% of your own hits. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I think that bowers do need some love. The problem is once they buff one side of the tree, for instance, the left side of the tree got a massive buff. People like Hedgie here will never give up the Immortal Call, Enduring Cry Immortal Call, and that's just more favorable. Things like that. It's going to be tough for them to bring bowers back to where they need to be. And in fact, I think they need to release a certain quiver we got teased about. I think that would change a big amount of the gameplay. Being able to go CI with a bow. Oh my God, hook me up right now.
Yeah, I just feel like archers in general, it's really rough on them because they don't get the plus. It's really hard for them to travel so far left to get those plus max resists. I think as far as an attack base, they're very, very strong and have the tools to, deal with it. But in an invasion league where it's, a lot of magic, there's a lot of risk with those. The right side in the tree in general, it's very evasive, can be very tanky, but you still have those spell threat being very, very, high.
Yeah.
I actually feel that they're actually okay. There's one big thing I'll address though, because there's a quiver you can get with spell block, or spell dodge or spell block, and then you can get phase aggro. Okay, there you go. So you can effectively get a little bit over 40%, type of dodge / block on spells. I think the main problem is you have no form of mobility. You can't leap slam out of combat. You can't lightning warp away. Like, that's huge. If something's flying at your face, like, for example, Judgment Apparatus shoots the balls at your face, right? You have Piety's lightning, like, coming at you. You could Quicksilver with movement speed, but that's that's removing a flask from you already, and you're still going to be in range to get shocked as you're running. So I'd say that's the biggest issue. One?
You can lightning warp as a ranger. That's no problem.
Can you really with a bow?
Well, you can.
Yeah,
It's
you
just really
can.
slow, so it's not very.
You just put it with reduced duration and it's fast. I mean, it's
okay. I didn't know that.
They should make a disengage
yeah.
type ability where you just push it, you jump backwards a couple feet,
Oh, that would be sweet.
There you go. Problem
Then
solved.
people would
Done.
cry about desync.
Good. Well, they're always going to cry about desync.
Honestly, people are always going to complain about desync, but I don't how I'm fine. I Whirling Blades everywhere, and I'm completely fine. If I didn't have Whirling Blades, I would have died so many times in this league. I feel like Whirling Blades is one of the best abilities. Once you have it linked to faster attacks and a decent attack speed on weapon, I use it on my Trapper. I've got like a 1.6 crit dagger just luckily, and man, every time a Devo pops up, Whirling Blades, I'm out of there. Peace. I'm good. It's very useful. So mobility is huge in invasion. In addition to defense, it's a form of defense. So.
Mm-hmm. Colby, you want to get the next question?
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a look here. We got this is so bright I can't see it. Alam Meredith, Hedgie. With life as its core attribute and mitigation through armor and resist nodes, do you think that the strength section of the tree is a little overtuned?
Overtuned for invasion, no. Overtuned for other leagues, maybe. I definitely feel like we have just enough goodies to get by, really well and, broaden the scope of whatever build you want to do on invasion. Other leagues, yeah, it might be slightly strong, but I feel like a lot of those stuff, like a lot of those Marauder and Templar nodes are pretty pivotal on the success of your character. Yeah, life and life regen, definitely, especially at the beginning of a league, because status ailments, I mean, you only profit from getting more and more HP. Status ailments become less of a threat, and it overall increases the tankiness and the dangers of your character. The next question is from Casey Isley, and he says, at all of you guys, what do you think GGG needs to do to make Cutthroat better or attract more players to join? You want to kick that one off?
I'll go last.
Trying to think what would actually attract more players. I mean, right now it's like we've got race rewards for doing the regular races, and then the leagues are that's devotes a lot of people's times. That's one of the main things. I feel like it's just an extra thing that doesn't actually have any benefit. Where it throws you into something that you want to do. So I feel like if they really want it to be a prominent thing, they need to, instead of just like kind of like tiptoeing it about as like here's some extra thing you can do, they need to just say, okay, this is one of the leagues. This is one of the 2 leagues. That's the only thing I think of. But I feel like right now they're just still trying to test what works and what people enjoy before they decide that. So honestly, I don't know what would force me into the league, because I like the idea of PvP and stuff, but I just enjoy the whole theory crafting and build stuff. I don't know. It's a hard question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think as far as like this game has guilds, but I don't feel like there's not enough guild events or like reason to have a guild other than maybe like sharing a community stash. I definitely feel like Cutthroat could add another huge element to the community and rivalries and alliances and KOS meters. bunch of screenshots of people killing people. I think that would be a huge thing as far as the social aspect of the game. And you know, I would favor definitely a permanent cutthroat league. But at the same time, losing all your armor is kind of significant. Maybe losing like 3 or 4 pieces, I feel like would be more appropriate. But that's just my opinion.
I was gonna bring up. Do you know? Are there achievements for cutthroat, or are there no achievements at all?
No.
Does anyone
Not
have
that
any
I'm
idea?
aware of.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
There's no real bonus
Right.
There's
just
no
yet, 'cause
reward.
It's more testing. Yeah, at the moment.
I would
it's just
say,
testing.
maybe once it's out of testing, possibly do like minor achievements and then mega achievements, depending on how like how in depth, I guess you could say, you want to go into it. But the other thing is, I want to say maybe tone down elemental damage at the start. If not tone down elemental damage, maybe reduce the effectiveness of like movement impairing effects. You get bear trapped for like 6 seconds in cutthroat.
Oh,
You're
God.
frozen permanently. You know, the glacial hammer spec, even though I don't know if it got nerfed or not, but like you're frozen permanently. Like rather than just reducing the damage of it, they could make it so it just reduces the effectiveness of it by like 60%. So rather than being perma-frozen, you get like half a second to a full second in between getting frozen. That's what I would say.
I kind of like that feature. Sorry, I wanted to interject. But I kind of like that feature because it's like there's that feeling of where it's such high risk and it's so where like it kind of forces you, okay, I need to find some friends so we can like, you know, gang up on this guy, or I need some protection. You know, it kind of forces you in that situation. You know, I don't want to die such early levels over and over again. So you want to either
Right.
A, speed clear, you know, reward the racers that are really good at leveling, get out of those zones that are high traffic and get to where you need to go. I kind of like that feel where you're very vulnerable at the beginning and it makes you there's more incentive when you pick up gear and you're like, oh, I'm going to be safe against this now, or oh, I'm just, you know, slightly tankier than this, or it's not going to affect me as much. I think it's okay to, you know, at the low levels for it to be like that.
All right, my take on cutthroat. First, a softcore and a hardcore cutthroat. Softcore, your gear doesn't pop. Hardcore, it does. Secondly, make it a certain level. Level 31 cutthroat. You have a little chest in the beginning, depending on the class you choose. It will have certain support gems, or if not all the support gems available to you, along with a 4 link for level 31 and level 45 cutthroat where you can get a 5 link. Things like that. Level cap, it's possible, but it'd be hard to incorporate it. And then the way to make cutthroat, I think, extremely viable is once you get all that starter gear on, you walk out in the open. You're in a huge map where multiple people will spawn in different areas of that map. Okay, and then you could progressively go down. The further you go down, they'll give you like 5 levels after achieving 5 levels going down. So now instead of 31, you're 36. There's extra skill points, extra life, and you want to kill people on the way, so that way you know you can progress. Highest level wins extra points, etc., etc. I think it'd be a lot of fun that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too out of the box with this, but I think cutthroat starting at the beginning is just rough. Cold Snap, Glacial Hammer, Bear Trap, they're boring. They put me to sleep. I don't find anybody until after Mervile, and they're waiting for me with a Bear Trap, a Cold Snap, or a Glacial Hammer. They need to fix that for sure. It's all testing, I get that, but we can make Cutthroat a lot better if we put our heads together. All right, so next question we got here. At all, do you feel that a shield is mostly mandatory in this league? And do you think it limits the build variety too much? I'll kick it off. Shields are so strong. They're insanely strong because of spell block. You know, by themselves, block is very good, but spell block, it doesn't break the game. It just makes you so tanky. Nerfing shields would completely, not only would it change the meta, but it would be hard to balance, and I don't know how they would do it. Maybe a block cap, I don't know. That is such a touchy subject, I'm sure, with multiple people. What are your takes, Dean?
I feel like instead of nerfing shields, make two-handeds more rewarding. Incentivize two-handers to do that much more damage. So the user has to really pick and choose, you know, if he goes two-handed or one-handed. I mean, you should be able to have like pretty good clear speeds because of the risk that you're taking. Start to see some more two-handed love. Let's move on to the next question. Average Gamer TV says, do you guys think that the skills and uniques have good potential but are just not theory crafted enough? Colby, would you like to answer that?
Okay, so there's a lot of skill. Okay, have good potential, but are not theory crafted enough. There's so many different potential items out there that are slowly being theory crafted and stuff, but I don't think there's anything that's been like missed out on. Pretty much the community's got to the point where they're very smart at crafting these builds, and we're seeing some crazy stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff out there that hasn't been widely known about yet, but I think they're in a good spot right now.
All right.
I hope I answered that right.
What do we got for our next question?
All right, so Alex PKC says, can you guys feel that there's less players in the last leagues? Also, anecdotal evidence that feels like there was much more trading in Domination and Nemesis compared to the current leagues. Whereas about 4 weeks in Domination, he used to sit and act normal and trade at peak hours, and now it just gets about 10 p.m. today. So, I don't know. What do you think about that, Pohx? Do you do a lot of trading? Hedgie, I know you do.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely less players in the Invasion League. I know that for sure, and I think majority of them are moving towards the other ones. But that's, I guess it's more of like at the start of the league, a lot of more people come, and then towards the middle of the league, it starts to slow down a bit. But that's pretty much what I have towards it.
Yeah, for me, I've been selling a lot of my junk on Invasion or my mediocre items just because the lack of other players being available or the generation of items very, very slow in Invasion. I haven't had any problems trading, to be honest. It's been better for me because I have more items that people want because I'm available. That's a big thing. But yeah, there is definitely a drop from what I've noticed in other hardcore leagues like Nemesis and Onslaught for sure. This one is at all. I don't know how many people are actually getting to. Oh, we already read that one. Legby Tond Laron says, "What do you guys think of adding the idea of adding strong boxes in the end of corrupted zones in Invasion? Need to breeze." Oh, yeah, that's it. Zeno, what do you think about that?
I wasn't listening. I'm sorry. Read it again.
What do you think about the strong boxes at the end of the corrupted zones in
Oh,
Invasion?
that is actually a good idea because you see a corrupted area and you're like, man, screw this. If there has to be more incentive, getting a Val gem is like the most depressing thing. It shouldn't be that way. Maybe in Merciless, make it worth more. If I'm going to fight that damn snake that splits a million times and smoke mine punctures, I want something, not a Val Spark,
That's very true.
Maybe
I
give
want
me
a Valspark.
Yeah, give me like a level 15 gem. Give me a 15 gem. I'm cool with that. That way, I still have to level it. It's still quality. It's worth my damn time. Maybe give you a Val gem that isn't corrupted yet, so you can corrupt. I don't know. There's so many different options we could do to fix that. A strong box would be a good one. Obviously corrupted areas aren't going anywhere, but in Invasion, at least from my experience, I see one and I'm just like, nope, not worth my time. How do you guys feel? Same?
I like doing them because they're easy on my current character, but on every other character that I've made, other than my Righteous Fire character, I'm like, why would I ever go in here?
Yeah.
No. So yeah,
I feel like
I don't like that.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be good because it'd be at least another pack or two that you could farm to hopefully get that map. I think that definitely a lot of people would skip the boss because they would know what's in it, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's like the same boss every time. And if you're doing the same maps, I feel like it should be varied up, just a little bit. But another 2 or 3 packs that you can farm and hopefully get a map, I think it would be a good thing.
All right. One more question. Had you could choose it.
It says, what is the... Oh, no, that's not a very good one. Let me go through these. You're having me choose, and there's so many questions.
Many mode this thing. It's gonna.
What do you think about the kind of changes that should be made to races to make them more popular to players?
That's a good idea because I personally don't play them, and the reason is I get involved with my one character very much so. I don't know. Usually when I see a race thing pop up, I think it's just spam from like trade chat or something. I don't even realize it. Maybe they have a better way of advertising it because when you see it, do you guys ignore it too? You're like, nah.
No, I don't ignore it. I just recently I haven't been doing races because I've been enjoying my character for one. I did races a lot last season, but I felt like the rewards were more meaningful at that point. So I don't know. I think it's all about reward versus the notoriety of it. It's really hard to feel like after you've done races enough, unless you're just like that's your thing. Like, all right, well I've already done races. I've kind of played that one through, so
I feel
I'm
like
just gonna do them for the early rewards.
I mean, I want to ask you guys, how many of you guys know people that race solely for the purpose of getting items for the next league?
I know a bunch of people that do it.
That's pretty much everyone I talk
Yeah.
to does it for that reason.
That
Really,
headhunter
it's
belt,
like-
man. That headhunter belt. Oh my god.
So you think
I've
that
actually-
was like one of the biggest driving forces for people to race?
Yes,
It was for
because
me.
of the items. Yeah, of how detrimental they were in this league. Like, was it Carcass Jacket last season or something? There was some crazy stuff that people pulled
Void
out 2
battery.
weeks into this one.
You
Void
got
battery,
all
there's-
right now.
that's
I'm
one of the
currently
stuff.
using I have perfect 30% boots for magic finding. I got the 12 belt, and so stuff that you literally cannot get anymore. I've got got the rings that you can't get anymore. You can get the lasagnas or whatever you call it, the lasagnas.
Lavinia's
the
great.
lasagnas flask. The little mana one. So there's a lot of things that are really good that you could get in the races, but and then the only other reason I was like, oh, that chest is gonna look cool. I want to just like create a bunch of alt accounts and
That prismatic
get
eclipse.
those- yeah. I feel like that's the only other thing. I was like, I just want to create alt accounts to get those alternate art items. So that's the only other reason. I feel like they just need to make either instead of all these like weird rewards, like some white ring that you have to roll that's level 100. That feels like an insult almost. I'd rather just have a bunch of cool race art stuff that can be transaction swap and stuff.
I have.
You mean cross-leagued? Or what?
Hmm?
Oh, you mean like for to skin it?
Yeah, that's what I want it to be able to take it out on day one, but not in a sense that, oh, this is OP. Or not on day one, that's maybe not. Just stuff that would look cool as like, sorry, okay, I would like not items that are usable, items that are skinnable. That's what I want. I want the rewards to be noticeable in this. Oh, you raced. You have these cool skinnable items that you can reuse and stuff. I don't like the idea of like getting actual usable items. I'm sorry, I wasn't saying that
What do you-
right. Does that make sense?
All right.
Yeah. What do you guys think about race rewards being legacy items? Like the legacy stuff, not like the stuff that you can't generate anymore, but the items that got nerfed, getting the unnerfed version.
Hey,
No, I think they should just take that out, make it like give you like fireworks and stuff for winning. Give you stuff that you can't get in terms
Okay.
of stuff that you would have to pay for. Stuff that
Right.
stuff that looks cool. I want it to look like a trophy. I want to skin myself to make myself bigger. The whole back in the day it was just demigods that made you bigger because it was cool. It didn't do anything other in the game. It didn't make it didn't have these like awesome belts that gives you 30 magic find that can only be attained through winning races. I think that's cool and all, and it's nice reward, but I just want to like look cool. I don't no one can tell that you have 30% more magic find on your belt. I'd rather it did some cool stuff. Like made you all flashy and you have your own special little look to you because you want it. That's what I want.
Just to jump in really fast, I think one really cool feature they could do, it's completely optional of course, is so you know how you have like a little symbol by your name when you have an achievement, etc.? What if they make it so you get an additional, like another symbol, just temporarily, so the top racers of those classes get a symbol by their name for the duration of until like the next race pops up.
Like
So
the
you can
UFC
see-
belt.
Yeah, you can just see something by their name until the next race pops, and then it resets. And then
Oh,
the
man,
top,
that's so
the
good.
top classes there get it again, so you can clearly
The
see.
title.
And like each one would signify from what race. So like you'd say like that guy is the best in the set of champions. Like let me go ask him something. That guy is the #1 cutthroat for a ranger, etc. And it would
Yeah,
promote
that's
it without
awesome.
you
That's what I
actually.
want.
That's legit. That's
Yeah,
legit.
stuff that actually shows that you're good at races rather than like, oh,
And it
I
would
made
reset.
all this currency
Yep.
because I want to race. I don't care about winning currency from winning race. I'd rather just go farm piety than do a race. I want something to show people like, oh, I'm badass.
Unique.
Yeah,
And it would
exactly.
reset after every race of that type. So if it's a long cutthroat, you would hold it until the next cutthroat. So I think that'd be pretty cool.
Before we go, I'm going to put in my tidbit on this because I've been waiting patiently. Racing, if from a business standpoint, skin transfers, I get it. You want to give us something, so we have to get our little 6 points to get it. why not give us a microtransaction for 1,000 points? Getting 1,000 points is a feat long enough. Give us something cool that nobody else can wear. I want a damn cape. I want to be a superhero. All right.
I know, right?
Give me a cape.
I know, right?
Give me some pants.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. The podcast is officially concluded. However, stand by. I'm going to pop off the stream, pop it right back up, and we're going to give out 2 microtransaction packs. I want to thank everybody that is tuned in, that came and went. I want to thank Pohx for being here. Dude, you're awesome, and that pink shirt is majestic as all hell.
Oh, thank you.
I would love to have you
appreciate it.
again in
Thank
the
you so
future.
much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was definitely an honor to be here in front of like a bunch of broadcasters at once, getting together and chilling or just relaxing on a Sunday. It was pretty neat. I'd definitely be up for it again.
Oh my God, you'd totally be coming back. There's no way I would take no for an answer. I would like to talk about next week. Next week we have Teryx and we have Willy Wonka. This is a big deal. Not that Pohx wasn't, but we got Willy and Teryx. That's a wombo combo right there. And for episode 5, that is 3 weeks from now. That would be May the 4th be with you. We have a GGG dev or Chris Wilson himself. So you guys need to keep coming back because this is getting bigger and better. And, people like Pohx, big names like that, you're going to keep seeing them. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you, GGG, for watching this. I'm sure